Hands up in the audience before we ask. Hands up in the audience who know anything about metaverse. Oh, what, you've all heard from Mr. Zuckerberg? We won't talk too much about him because in the last 6 months he's lost about 60 or 70 billion dollars. The share price of Facebook has gone down, and some people are suggesting that maybe the change in the company from Facebook to Meta might have been one of those reasons, but we won't. So, the first question is, with the two panel I'm going to ask them is, we'll start with you, Peter. How would you define the metaverse? Are there multiple interpretations? Is it just an extension of augmented or virtual reality, or is it something more?
Gosh, I actually remember sitting on a panel in 1996 with a very similar question, which is, what is the World Wide Web? and the answers are exactly the same. It's interesting. The metaverse is just an extension of the internet. It's the next interface. We had Web 1, which was mainly you use the screen. Web 2, mainly you use your mobile. And Web 3, you'll go in through some form of wearable device. It will start in the business-to-business arena, like all technologies adopted. So you've got businesses use email, mobile phones, PCs first. Businesses will use access devices for the metaverse first. There will business-to-business use cases. And then the devices will become much more widely spread, and you'll get mass adoption, and it'll have consumer versions. But the metaverse is nothing more than another version of the internet.
John, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you look at it, it's the future of the internet, right? It's the internet that you currently know and use every day, developed by gamers. It's bringing together people, places, and things. Whereas, as Peter was saying, you had Web 1, Web 2 is walled gardens, Facebook, your Apple, your iPhone, all sitting there in walled gardens, whereas this is much more open, bringing together all things. And I think it's very hard to define something that doesn't have a definition, but at the same time, I think the current iteration of it, as you'll see developing, obviously, I mean, I'm sure many people in the room have kids. I mean, my kids are already in the metaverse, so without having VR, and you look at Roblox, you look at Fortnite, these worlds that are being created, and kids are living in them day to day. I mean, I was reading something yesterday that there's more messages sent in Roblox now than there are on WhatsApp daily, which is a huge amount of, and these are kids that are going to, 10 years' time, be working in our industries and different industries. They're going to be defining what happens in the metaverse, how we interact with it, how we use it.
I think for the people here, the difference, if they want to get a grasp on what the change is going to be, it's going to be presence. You observe the internet at the moment via your devices. In Web 3, you'll be able to go into the internet and you'll be able to own things within that environment. And those two combined will give you a whole new dimension on how you interact digitally. And for this industry, it's going to be transformational too.
So, John, you're more a food and beverage guy, aren't you? So how do you see, the metaverse assisting you in your business moving forward?
I think from an industry that we're in, I think from a marketing perspective, from a presence, winning hearts and minds, I think that's where everyone will be. I mean, as we've seen, and we just talked about Web 1, Web 2, how did your business change when social media started? Mm-hmm. Obviously, it was a massive step change for how we used to do business to what we do now. And I think we're still catching up with that. I mean, I know many businesses that even struggle with social media. And we're going to go to the next iteration of that. As Peter said, we're going to be in these environments. You're going to be interacting inside of them. And it's for us to define what it is. I mean, I think that when you look at the current world and the metaverse, Web 3, I'm sure blockchain, NFTs. I mean, I think the sad thing is at the moment that we're using all these phrases and all this technology that should be transformational, and we're being used to scam people out of money and build pyramid schemes. But like I said, I think the generation below us will be the ones that define what it is and how we use it. I mean, again, we're all in the hospitality industry. It's about bricks and mortar. It's about people. It's about interaction with people. And that's not going to change. I think what the metaverse will bring is it's just a different way to, I mean, for example, someone's in the metaverse for 2-3 hours a day. Do you want to be the brand that's got real estate in there that they're seeing, and then in their real world, that drives their decisions? And I think that's where it will change massively. But again, we still want to be best customer service, best food, best environment, best ambience when you're in the restaurants, hotels. That's what it's got to be. And it can't be, again, I think currently we talk about VR headsets and goggles and hardware. I mean, that's not, that would be part of it for sure, but that's not going to be what defines what the metaverse is. I think it would be like me saying, oh, come to our restaurant because we've got the best tables and chairs. No one's going to come for that, are they? We've got the best food, we've got the best atmosphere, we've got the best staff, we've got the best interaction with the best customer service. It's just a part of it, and I think that's where it will be a learning curve, especially for hospitality.
Peter, your company has done some metaverse stuff with some function centres, etc. How do you see? Do you see maybe a metaverse impacting in the meeting space area initially?
Listen, so we are doing metaverse development projects with Marriott, Hilton, Four Seasons, Man, Hyatt, Intercontinental, just about every major chain. So I am seeing how this is unfolding at high level across the major chains in the world and where it's going. And initially, a year or two ago, there was much more interest in the B2C version of the metaverse. You talk about Roblox or Decentraland. That's become clear that's for a child's audience under 20. It's not hitting the hospitality marketplace. And now the move towards the B2B metaverse, which is where it will all start, and how it become a business process tool to improve the way the hotel industry operates, to improve the way it interacts with its customers, especially B2B customers, be they luxury leisure planners or meeting and incentive planners. Meeting and incentive planners are a third of this industry's revenue. So we're seeing the potential to really optimize the way site inspections are done with major hotel chains, whereas the Hilton in Munich had 15 sales staff doing one presentation a day to site visits coming from all over the world. We're seeing that we can cut that right down. And site visits, someone flying from America or Taiwan last week didn't have to do it because they can actually make the site inspection in, we call it a miniverse, which is your own. It's not, the metaverse isn't this planet. It's like a website where you go into it. And so it's becoming a really useful tool, especially in the meeting and incentive and high-end luxury space, where you're also maybe selling residences, where people are buying off-plan from Malaysia in London. It's a great way to sell it to them without them having to fly here. So that's what we're seeing adoption coming at.
So do you think that's giving the hotels that have invested in a competitive advantage? And can we quantify in any shape how that's playing out? Are you finding now people are gravitating to picking function venues that are using the metaverse?
Without doubt, we were, yes. Firstly, we have a panel group of buyers we test stuff with. One actually bought a room in the Hilton Munich, basically out of our test. An anecdotal example, but just shows you. But where, in the industry where we're short of staff now, to optimise working practices where you don't need 15 salespeople on staff to do site inspections. You can have those salespeople at a central office doing a lot of them remotely, where you also don't need the on-site organisation of someone turning up. We're seeing that hotel chains are planning now towards centralising VR visits. Early days, very early days, but that's how I see it going.
So we talked earlier about gaming and so forth, and I created an avatar earlier this year in a conversation, and I bought the Oculus, the big, heavy, chunky thing. Do you think, John, do you see that these glasses and others will shrink in size, and that eventually you won't need the big, expensive goggles to sort of get into the metaverse? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think that there is a place for the goggles, the VR, the AR. Absolutely, and it'll be a small part of the metaverse, I believe, but to your point, it's a exclusive technology, right, because it costs, and not everyone's, the way the world's going, everyone will be in the metaverse, and it's not going to be through £500 goggles, and it's not going to be...
You know, I'm going to disagree. How many of you have got a phone on you now that costs more than $500? Every single one of you. It's not an expensive device. It's a cheap device. It just needs to be more accessible. The device at the moment is like a phone in the 1980s when you used to stick it in your car and carry it around like a suitcase. Devices will miniaturize, they will lighten, they'll be more powerful, battery power will extend, and they will become an extension of you, just like your phone is. The device is not a barrier to entry. At the moment, it will mean it's adopted in a B2B environment, like we bought PCs, because it helps the business tool. It doesn't give business to consumer environments for a restaurant environment, for example. But on a B2B level, for the hospitality industry, it's not an expensive device, it's a business tool. And we need to make sure you understand that.
So how do you see you moving forward? You've got sons that are gamers, etc. Do you see that as we move to mass marketing? Do you see millennials and stuff? They are the audience you're going after? I can't imagine lots of baby boomers like myself are going to be roaring into the metaverse. How do you see it playing out to advance your business?
I think we're 10 years away from it being seen as something that's in your day-to-day life. I think for the metaverse to work properly, I mean, I don't even think we have the computing power currently for it to be this be-all and end-all that everyone's in and got headsets on. And I mean, even if you take Fortnite, for example, which is a great example of multiple gamers, their games are restricted to 100 players. You never all, because we don't have the computing power for this to work. People will talk about this big wide world of how amazing this technology is. We can't get there yet. And that's where, I mean, our computing power in the last 20 years has gone times 100. It needs to be another 1,000 on top of that to get to anywhere where we're talking about living in these worlds and 7 billion people having headsets on. It's not going to happen.
Well, you see, I mean, I don't think that's the metaverse. I don't think everyone's in the internet every day. I mean, we're all sitting here doing this stuff. We use the internet when we need to. The technology's there now for this room to all be remote, and we've created this room. We could all sit here, maybe 150, 200 people. We could do that on our platform. So there are use cases, especially in a business-to-business environment, where people can be brought together, and it exists already. It's not 10 years away. It's 10 weeks away, and it's happening. But it's happening in different areas.
So at the moment, now we've got Zoom, Teams. What is the metaverse going to do? I had the conversation with Floor Bleeker, the CTO of Accor, and they do all their management.
He loves his headsets.
He does, and he's very big on, for his Teams meetings now, they're creating, all of them are now creating their own avatars, and he said it's added a completely new element, made meetings fun. So what I'm saying, I suppose, is
I mean, if you've got a cause budget to be able to build virtual things, then they're amazing. But
yeah. And this is my point: is that it's not for everyone on the planet. It's for a business-to-business use case where the investment makes the process more efficient and you save money and time. Teams is integrating with Meta now, so anyone who uses Teams or Microsoft Outlook, it is integrating with the metaverse background. You will have your avatar on it, and you're able to go straight into the metaverse from Teams by the middle of later this year. It's going to be on your desktop. That's how close it is to being here. It is not 10 years away. It's 10 weeks away.
Well, we'll have a difference of opinion there. So I think the question, I suppose, really is that, and I asked this earlier, is do you see down the track that I'm a time-poor guy, I really would love to go and experience a real holiday, but can I replicate in the metaverse a holiday, a resort, a room, sitting on the beach, etc.? And do you see that for some people who are time poor saying, well, I know I can't go to Cancun or you know, the Caribbean or whatever?
I mean, I can see it. It's definitely going to change the way you interact with, I mean, holidays I think is probably too much of a stretch because the experience of a holiday is being there, right? But how you interact with museums, how you interact with entertainment, how you interact with games, absolutely going to change in terms of being able to experience something. I am time poor, I can't get to go to this museum exhibition, this conference, that, absolutely. But I just think like when you're talking about a holiday, a hotel, a restaurant, the experience is going, right? The experience is being there. Now, will it change the way you book that experience? Maybe, yes.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question is because one of the things we're seeing in our industry is attribute-based selling. And what we're meaning now is if I have the metaverse and I can visualise every aspect of a room, a view, proximity, I can hear the sound waves of the waves on the beach, etc. Is that going to? I think that in the future that may assist hotels to ask for higher rates because they're going to see the view from that particular room. They're going to be able to look at that room in the complete 360, and maybe that will become a marketing tool. It's like you said earlier, Peter, about people buying multi-million-dollar residents on the other side of the world, looking at a 360-degree view.
So what's coming out of research on exactly that point is with leisure agents at the high end, when they've got a choice with their clients of spending $5,000 a night on a suite or $10,000 a night in a suite, they have a trouble with their clients a big amount of money. If they can actually take their client into those two suites because they've got kids, they want to look at room configurations, they want to look where the bathroom is, and the client can say, I want that suite. And we're at the moment creating digital twins of hotel spaces which can do light, we can't do smell. But hotels will be, rather than just going to look at pictures or videos as you do on a website at the moment, you'll be able to go into those spaces. We do it on a mobile app. We don't need goggles. We've got a mobile app. And you can then experience it that way. And that's exactly how it's being used now to experience complex spaces. I
think where you're going to have an issue is being able to view the room, attribute-based selling, absolutely great. I mean, most of the people I know are still using Opera on-prem. So, I mean, it's how quickly can the PMSs catch up, not how quickly can you build these great spaces. What is that mechanism for the rest of the industry to catch up to what this is going to be? It's just going to be your website.
No hotel in 5 years will just have a flat website. Basically, what the Marriott Metaverse is being created, you will walk into it, you'll go not onto their website to book a room, you'll go into a reception, you'll meet an AI avatar, they'll question you and they'll take you and book you in the room. You can integrate that back into a PMS very easily.
Famous last words.
Well, if the CRS is already integrated, it's done. So you've just got to integrate into a CRS. And having done that all my life, I know how easy it is. So I don't think it's hard.
Okay. Anyone else experienced the hard integration into a CRS or PMS? Same amount of people that have got phones.
Well, I think we're starting to see in the industry, though, John, a move to the cloud. I think within 5 years you'll be struggling to find too many PMS vendors with on-premise. And I think at the end of the day, with open APIs and everything else, I think all of the vendors, even the big guys like Oracle now, are getting to the stage where they have to deal with other third parties who are going to bring new technology to the table. So I think that some of that integration is going to happen a lot sooner than we think. I think all I'm looking at is, the early adopters of technology often get the early advantages from a competitive position. And I think, based on what Peter's saying, I'm just interested in how you see the metaverse from a food and beverage perspective. How do you see what opportunities, like we've talked about meeting spaces and stuff, how do you see from a food and beverage perspective with your restaurants, how the metaverse is going to help you drive more business or drive people to come to your restaurants?
It's exactly the same as what you just talked about hotels. For us, hotels, restaurants, it's about that, how are you upselling to people, better tables, better menus, how are they experiencing what the food is. So, as Peter was saying, at the minute, flat websites, you look at a menu, it's boring, right? How are you engaging with someone to get them to pick that restaurant? I mean, the choices of these days are so vast.
If I were a menu, I've not looked at hospitality solutions in the metaverse, but if I was a restaurant, the first thing I do is put on an event where people can come in, see a live band going, walk into the environment and actually have an experience which summed up what your hotel is. That's what the metaverse can do. You can have music, people going on, it's not flat, and can give a flavour of a few minutes of your restaurant. I suspect that's how I'd be if I was working with you, looking at a solution for maybe Ivy. But I don't know whether that's what you're looking at.
I was thinking of an example. Do you have chef's tables?
Yeah.
I was thinking, based on what Peter said, a metaverse example where you were literally sitting in a seat looking at how the whole chef...
All great. I mean, absolutely. I just think that we're, as a tech set, it's just not there yet. It's not how people are interacting with it at the moment. It's not.
Definitely not yet. Not on a B2C
Yeah,
side.
it's like from a consumer perspective, it's not how people are interacting with things. And to be honest, the way everything's done, it's not about. I mean, we're lucky, we're very busy, we've got great brands. Actually, how big is it? How do we get them to book quicker? Not how do they want to come and do a 360 tour of the restaurant. It's how do I get them from hitting the website to clicking the book button as quick as possible.
Yes,
and to be honest,
ratios,
I think most hospitality businesses haven't even nailed Web 2 yet in terms of booking process and ease of use.
But this panel, I don't think people really want to hear about what's going on now. I think they want us to have an imagination about what's over the horizon and not look at perhaps technical integration issues that might get in the way, but try and imagine where the future might be so you get a taste of it and can make your own decisions up.
I think that's probably fair. We're down to 5 minutes. Any questions from the floor? Anyone? Someone get a mic.
Short question.
Sure. You've talked a lot about marketing. What about education? Do you see any sort of advantages of education, training and development?
Are we talking in hospitality or generally as a sector?
Hospitality.
So the most successful area of metaverse, apart from gaming, is education at the moment. It's being used to train people. It's being used for remote sites, drilling, oiling, how to show people how to do these things, very complex. And that is the use case that's really taken off. So education will be one of the big winners from the metaverse. With hospitality, it's interesting. We were in the Atlantis in Dubai, and we were showing some of the staff in the main reception what we were doing. And they said, gosh, that's our main ballroom. We've never been in there. I said, what do you mean never been in there? We said, we're not allowed to go. And we realised that management realised that the staff had not even seen their whole hotel. So it can just show you how you can use, you can have remote people all over the world and explain what your hotel in London's like, what your hotel in Beirut's like, or wherever, and lots to do training. So it's perfect for training. Perfect. I'm sure brilliant for hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, education is where will be the big winner throughout, not just hospitality, but everything that we currently know will change.
So you're saying it could be a perfect vehicle for onboarding employees and getting them up to speed quicker?
Especially in global environments, especially where you've got remote working going on, especially where you've got multiple sites where you don't want to train people on, it's perfect for all those things. The infrastructure's not there yet, but it will really streamline onboarding of new staff in hospitality.
We've got one last question. Anyone else want to?
Sam, you?
Some?
Right, the worst auction ever.
Hang on, there is one.
There's a lot of controversy around an unregulated industry and the harm and damage to children, for instance. So how should the metaverse be regulated to protect children?
Listen, that's a very important question, and I go back to the question I had in 1996, which is, what would the World Wide Web mean to me? And I think it's the same issue that we have on the internet, we have on all media. The metaverse is just another format, another media format. I don't see it as any particular issues that need looking at, but I think generically anything that children access needs to be carefully thought about and controlled. But I can't see anything unique about the metaverse personally.
Yeah, I think the governance of it will change as it develops. It's the decentralization, everything you hear about it that's going to come and happen with blockchain and the sovereignty of your identity and your currency and your having everything that you're in control of. That's where over the next 5-10 years you'll see that absolutely developing and changing, because it won't be allowed to develop without governance, in my opinion.
But the metaverse exists beyond blockchain, and let's not convolute the two. A metaverse is the interactive environment where you can be present. Adding blockchain to that is another functionality altogether. They're not one thing. It's not homogeneous.
So I think we can draw a couple of conclusions. It's on the horizon. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but Certainly you're going to see probably maybe in the meeting space area first, maybe some iterations, but I don't think our business processes are going to change in the next 5 minutes. I suggest we keep an eye on how the metaverse is growing. I think you're going to see, as Peter's told me earlier, Apple, Microsoft, Google, all of these players, Facebook, are all going to get into the space, and it's going to be an interesting journey to see how it all unfolds. So could you please join with me and thank my two panellists for their insightful comments.
Thank you.